Okay, let's dive in. Imagine this, right? You're walled up in a dark tower for 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
Just because you didn't want to marry the guy your dad picked out.
It's intense from the get-go.
Or picture this. A bride walking to the altar, yeah. But instead of, like, wedding jitters, she's talking in rhymes.
Cryptic rhymes, yeah.
Yeah.
About nettle bushes and church doors breaking.
So strange.
It really is. We're stepping into a classic tale today. It's called Maid Maleen's Long Imprisonment and Happy Union.
Or sometimes just Jungfrau Maleen, right?
Exactly, that's the one.
And our mission for this deep dive is really just to unpack the story using the text you shared, pull out the surprising bits, the memorable parts.
And try to figure out what makes it tick, sticking strictly to what's written down.
Right. No outside interpretations for this one.
Okay, so the setup. It starts off, well, pretty dramatically. We've got Jungfrau Maleen, daughter of a powerful king, beautiful, all that.
Classic fairy tale princess.
And she's in love with a prince, another king's son. Seems straightforward.
But nope. Her father wants her to marry someone else. Someone he chose.
And Maleen. She's not having it. She actually tells him pretty directly.
What does she say?
I can and will not marry anyone else because I love him. Which, for that time and context, it's gold.
Really bold. Standing up to a king like that.
And his reaction is, well, it's completely over the top. He doesn't argue. He doesn't negotiate. He builds a tower.
A tower. Okay.
But not just any tower. The text specifies it's dark. Built so, like, zero sunlight or moonlight ever gets in.
Whoa. That's deliberate.
Oh, completely. Total sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
And then he walls her up inside, her and her chambermaid.
Walls them up like bricks and mortar?
Literally. For 7 years.
7 years? That's unbelievable. And how do they survive?
He gives them just enough food and drink for exactly 7 years. It's all calculated.
To do what? What's the goal?
The text says to break her stubborn will. It's purely punitive.
Wow. And they're just cut off.
Totally. From heaven and earth, as the text puts it. They don't know if it's day or night. It's complete isolation.
And what about her beloved? The prince.
Ah, that's a really sad detail. He apparently walks around the outside of the tower calling her name.
Oh, no.
But the walls are so thick, she never hears him. Nothing gets through.
That's heartbreaking. So 7 years pass in this total darkness. How do they even know the time is up?
Well, the source actually tells us. It's the supplies.
The food and drink.
Yeah. They start running low, and that's how they figure, okay, the 7 years must be nearly over.
So they're thinking, okay, freedom's coming. The wall's going to open.
Exactly. They expect release.
Yeah.
But nothing.
Nothing happens.
Silence. It seems maybe her father just forgot about them, or maybe he died, or just didn't care anymore.
So they're facing starvation now.
Pretty much. The food's almost gone. It's desperate.
And this is where Maleen, she takes action, right?
She does. She decides they have to get out themselves. They have to try and break through the wall.
How? They don't have tools, surely.
Get this. They use a bread knife.
A bread knife to get through stone.
To scrape out the mortar between the stones, yeah.
Yeah.
They take turns digging and digging. When one gets tired, the other takes over.
In the dark. That must have taken forever.
The text says 3 days. 3 days of constant work with this little knife.
Until finally.
Finally, a stone comes loose. They make a hole. The first light streams in after 7 years.
Oh, imagine seeing light again after all that time. What do they see outside? Is the kingdom still there?
They step out. Blue sky, fresh air, amazing.
Yeah.
But the world they knew, gone.
Gone how?
Total devastation. Her father's castle, rubble. The city, the villages, burned to the ground as far as they can see. Fields destroyed.
No people.
Not a soul mentioned. The text explains that enemies attacked while they were inside. Destroyed the kingdom, drove off her father, killed everyone.
So the tower, their prison, actually saved them.
In a really twisted, horrible way, yes.
Yeah.
It became this weird kind of sanctuary from total annihilation.
So they escape one nightmare into another. They're alive, but completely alone in this wasteland.
Exactly. Nowhere to go, no one to help them. Their home is gone.
What do they do? How do they survive?
They just start wandering, looking for another place, any place.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody offers shelter. Nobody gives them food.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically refugees.
And they get hungry, obviously.
Starving. And this is where that really striking detail comes in. They eat nettles.
Nettles, like stinging nettles.
Raw, steaming nettles. Uncooked, unroasted, the text says. Just picked and eaten.
Ouch. That paints such a picture of desperation, doesn't it?
It really does. Shows how low they've sunk, what they have to endure.
So after this long journey eating nettles, Do they find somewhere?
Eventually, yeah. After a long time wandering, they reach a big city in another country, and they start looking for work, any kind of work.
Do they find any? I mean, they must look rough.
They get turned away everywhere at first, probably look like vagrants, like you said.
Yeah.
But finally, the cook at the royal palace takes pity on them, lets them stay. Work in the kitchen.
As kitchen maids?
Yep, scullery maids, basically. The source even says like Aschenputtel, Cinderella. Yep. Covered in soot, lowest of the low.
Okay, so they've found some kind of refuge, even if it's basic survival, but here comes the twist.
Oh, the big one. The king's son, the prince of this kingdom, where Maleen is now working in the kitchens.
Don't tell me.
It's him, her original beloved, the one who called her name outside the tower.
No way, in the same palace.
Right there. It's this huge coincidence. Fate, maybe, but she's unrecognizable, of course. A poor kitchen maid. He wouldn't know her.
And what's his situation? Is he still waiting for her?
Well, no. His father, the king here, has arranged a marriage for him to someone else.
Oh, drama. Who's the new bride?
The text is not subtle about her. Describes her as ugly in face as she was wicked in heart.
Oof. Okay, so she's the villain.
Pretty clearly set up that way. And because she's apparently so ugly, she's incredibly self-conscious. She refuses to be seen by anyone, locks herself in a room.
Which means,
guess who has to bring the locked-away, ugly bride her food?
Maleen, the kitchen maid.
Exactly. The true beloved, serving the false, ugly bride. The irony is thick.
Okay, so the wedding day must be approaching. Tension building.
Right. The day arrives. Time for the bride to go to the church with the prince, the king's son.
But the false bride is hiding because she's ashamed of how she looks.
Yeah, terrified people will mock her on the street. So she comes up with this plan, a really bold lie.
What does she do?
Claims she sprained her foot, suddenly can't walk to the church.
Convenient.
Very. And then she tells Jungfrau Maleen, the kitchen maid, you have to put on my wedding dress, my jewels, and go to the church in my place.
She wants Maleen to pretend to be her at her own wedding.
Exactly. Take her place beside the groom.
Does Maleen agree after everything?
Initially, no. She actually refuses, says something like, I don't want any honor that isn't mine. The false bride even offers her gold.
And Maleen still says no. Good for her.
Yeah, shows she still has that core of integrity. But the false bride doesn't take no for an answer. She gets nasty.
How nasty?
Threatens her life. Says basically, do it or I'll have your head cut off. The text is chilling. I only need to say a word, and your head will be laid before your feet.
Yikes. Okay, so Maleen doesn't really have a choice.
Not really. She's forced to put on the fancy bridal clothes, the jewelry, everything.
So she's suddenly transformed from a kitchen maid back into, well, looking like royalty.
And this leads to that incredible walk to the church.
What happens when people see her?
She steps into the hall, and everyone is just stunned by how beautiful she is. Remember, they haven't seen the real bride or thought she was ugly.
And the king, the groom's father.
He's impressed, too. Tells his son, basically, see, this is the great bride I picked for you. Take her to church.
And the groom, her actual beloved, what's he thinking?
He's completely baffled. The text says he's astonished. He thinks she looks so much like his Jungfrau Maleen.
Does he recognize her?
He thinks his Maleen must be dead, or still locked up far away, so he can't quite believe it's her. But there's clearly something, a resemblance he can't ignore. He takes her hand.
And they start walking to the church.
Yes. And as they walk, this is where the weird rhymes start.
Ah, the clues. The nettle bush first, right?
Right. They pass a nettle bush, and Maleen says, sort of to herself, but loud enough for him to hear, nettle bush so small, why do you stand here all alone? I have known a time when I eat you uncooked, unroasted.
Referencing her time starving in the wilderness.
Exactly. A private memory embedded in a public rhyme. He hears it, asks her, what did you say?
And she deflects.
Totally. Oh, nothing. I was just thinking of Jungfrau Maleen.
Planting the name in his mind again. Clever.
Very. He's puzzled, but they keep walking. Then they get to the stile, like the steps over a fence, before the churchyard.
And she does it again.
Yep. Church style, break not, I am not the right bride.
Whoa, that's pretty direct. Not the right bride.
Right. He asks again, what was that? Same answer. Nothing, just thinking of Jungfrau Maleen.
Does he push it this time?
He asks, do you know Jungfrau Maleen? But she says, no, she's only heard of her. Still keeping up the disguise, but dropping these heavy hints.
Okay, one more clue to come, right? The door.
The church door itself. As they reach it, she says, church door, break not, I am not the right bride.
Third time is the charm.
He asks again, same answer again. just thinking of Jungfrau Maleen. He must be seriously wondering what is going on by now.
But before they go inside, something happens.
Yes, right there at the church door, he takes out this valuable necklace, a beautiful piece of jewelry.
And gives it to her.
Puts it around her neck himself. And the text specifically notes that he fastens the clasp.
That feels significant, like he's marking her, connecting with her somehow, despite the confusion.
It seems like a physical link is made right before the ceremony.
Okay, so they go in. The wedding happens.
Priest joins their hands, says the words, they're married. Legally, officially.
The false bride got what she wanted, sort of. Maleen is married to the prince.
But it's Maleen who went through this ceremony. And then, on the walk back to the castle, she says nothing.
Silent again.
Completely silent the whole way. She's done the talking, delivered her messages. Now silence.
And when they get back,
She doesn't linger. Rushes straight to the false bride's room, takes off all the fancy clothes, the jewelry, except one thing.
the necklace.
She keeps the necklace he gave her, puts her gray kitchen smock back on over it, back into disguise, but with the proof hidden underneath.
Okay, so the stage is set for the confrontation. Night falls.
Time for the bride to be, officially presented to the king's son in his chambers. The false bride comes, but she keeps her face covered with a veil.
Trying to hide her ugliness as long as possible.
Exactly. But the king's son isn't thinking about her looks right now. He's thinking about those rhymes. The minute they're alone, he asks her,
What does he ask first?
"What did you say to the nettle bush?"
The test begins. And the false bride.
She has no idea. Says, "Which nettle bush? I don't talk to nettle bushes."
And his reaction.
It's immediate. If you didn't say it, then you are not the right bride. Yeah. Boom. He connects the words directly to the person.
The false bride must be panicking now.
Totally. She uses that weird specific phrase from the text. She needs her maid, the one who carries my thoughts.
Like the maid holds the memory for her. It's bizarre.
It is. So she runs out, finds Maleen, probably furious, demands to know what she said. Maleen tells her the Nettlebush rhyme.
And the false bride goes back and repeats it.
Yep. Returns to the chamber, recites the rhyme, claims she just remembered it or whatever.
Does he buy it?
He moves to the next test. Okay, what about the church style?
She denies it again.
Denies it. He says again, then you are not the right bride. She has to run out again, get the rhyme from Maleen again.
This is almost comical, if it weren't so tense.
Right. She goes back, repeats the church style rhyme.
Yeah.
Then he asks about the church door.
Same routine.
Same thing. Denial. You're not the right bride. Runs out, confronts Maleen this time, threatening her life again, gets the rhyme, runs back, repeats it. She must be furious and sweating by now.
She's passed the verbal tests, but only by cheating, by using Maleen's words. But there's one more test.
The final one. The physical proof. He asks, and what about the precious necklace I gave you at the church door?
Oh, aha. The one Maleen is wearing under her smock.
Exactly. And the false bride, who never got a necklace, has no clue. She asks, what necklace? You didn't give me a necklace.
The fatal mistake.
The absolute giveaway. He knows immediately. He says, I put it around your neck myself, I hooked it, and then the final verdict. If you do not know that, then you are not the right bride.
It's over for her. What does he do?
He pulls the veil off her face.
And sees her.
Sees the ugliness the text described. He apparently jumps back, shocked, and demands, who are you? How did you get here?
Does she confess?
She has to. Admits she's the one he was supposed to marry. But she was afraid of being mocked, so she forced the kitchen maid, the Ashenputtel, to take her place.
Does she name Maleen?
Not explicitly as Maleen in that moment, just as the kitchen maid. He immediately says he wants to see that girl. Tells the false bride, go get her.
But the false bride, she's described as wicked, right?
And she proves it. Instead of getting Maleen, she runs out to the palace servants.
And tells them.
Lies. Says the kitchen maid is a fraud, a deceiver. Orders them to drag Maleen out to the courtyard and cut off her head. Immediately.
What? She tries to have her killed.
Right after confessing. It's pure malice.
Yeah.
The servants grab Maleen, they're taking her away.
Can Maleen do anything?
She cries out. Screams for help so loudly that the king's son hears it back in his chamber.
He comes running.
Yes, rushes out, sees what's happening, and orders them to release her at once.
Just in time.
Then they bring lights, maybe torches, to see properly. And that's when he sees it.
The necklace.
Clear as day. The gold necklace he put on the bride at the church door, right there around Maleen's neck, under her dirty kitchen smock.
The final proof.
Undeniable. And he knows instantly. He says, you are the right bride. The one who went to church with me. And he takes her back to his chamber.
Away from the false bride and the danger.
Right. And now, finally, alone together, he looks at her properly. He mentions again how much she looks like his lost Jungfrau Maleen, thinks about the strange things she said on the walk.
And does she tell him then?
Everything. Yes. She reveals her full identity. The source gives her words. I am Jungfrau Maleen, who for your sake sat captive 7 years in darkness, suffered hunger and thirst, and lived so long in need and poverty. But today the sun shines on me again. I was married to you in the church, and I am your lawful wife.
Wow. What a declaration. Her whole story, her suffering, her claim, all laid out.
It's powerful. And the story gives them the reward for all that suffering. They kiss, the text says, and live happily ever after.
The classic fairy tale ending for them. But what about the false bride? The wicked one?
Well, keeping with the often harsh justice of these old tales.
Yeah.
She doesn't get away with it.
What happens?
As retribution for the deception, and especially, I think, for trying to have Maleen murdered, she was beheaded.
Swift and brutal.
Very much so. That's the fate the story assigns her.
And is that the end? Does it say anything else?
There's actually one last little detail about the tower.
The Dark Tower where she was imprisoned?
Yeah. The text says it stood for a long time afterwards. It remained a landmark.
Just standing there, empty.
Apparently. And it became part of local folklore. When children passed by it, they used to sing a little rhyme.
A rhyme about the tower. What did it say?
Something about who sits in the tower, how the walls and stones won't break, and calling out for someone named Hanshin, which is interesting, maybe related to the prince. But it shows the place, the site of her suffering, lingered in memory.
Even if the kids singing didn't know the whole horrible story behind it.
Exactly. It's a haunting little footnote.
So looking back at this whole story, just based on the text, Maleen's journey is just staggering.
It really is. Defying her father, the 7 years in darkness, escaping to find total ruin.
Surviving on nettles, becoming a servant, then being forced into that wedding deception.
Marrying her true love while disguised, dropping those clues, facing death again.
And finally, being recognized and finding happiness. It's an incredible endurance test.
And what's really interesting is how she's recognized in the end. It's not just one thing.
Right. The necklace is key. That physical object he gave her, that's undeniable proof.
But it wasn't only the necklace. Her words mattered just as much. Those specific rhymes she spoke.
The ones linked to her actual experiences, like eating the nettles or knowing she wasn't the right bride in that moment.
Exactly. Those words carried the weight of her unique history, her suffering. They were clues only the real person who experienced those things could have uttered.
And then, finally, she had to actually speak her truth, tell him who she was.
Right. The necklace proved she was at the church. The rhymes hinted at her past and identity, but she still had to claim it herself.
So it makes you think, what truly proves who someone is. It wasn't just the external thing, the necklace. It was also the internal stuff, the memories, the experiences she carried that came out in those rhymes.
It's a fascinating blend of tangible proof and intangible personal history. What does it mean that both were needed? Maybe it suggests that our identity isn't just about external markers people can see, but also about the unique stories and scars we carry inside. What parts of our identity are like the necklace, and what parts are like the nettle rhyme? Something to mull over.